Big up the Guardian. Big up the Guardian from the UK, right? The Guardian as follows. Joe Rogan claims a study shows the Earth is cooling, but reports authors say that he's wrong. So, you know, Rogan says that he's an expert, he's got all this research, he was barking that fucking Callan on the fucking stream. Well, it seems like he doesn't know what he's fucking talking about, you know? It seems like he doesn't know what he's talking about. Who would have guessed it? Are we surprised? Are we surprised? So, curse of the Guardian, right? That's a really good image, by the way. Big up the person who made that. The Earth is cooling, but Joe Rogan is sweating. Let's read the article. Scientists say old school denial nonsense isn't helpful. For months now, popular comedian and podcaster Joe Rogan has been telling his vast audience of a study that shows Earth is cooling, even though this research states the complete opposite. Huh? But Joe Rogan can read. How is he reading something and then coming to the wrong conclusion? Rogan's false claims about the climate crisis, which was repeatedly aired on the Joe Rogan Experience, one of the world's most popular podcasts, has exasperated the science. You see how dramatic we are in England? Look at the writing. You see how dramatic we are here? You see how dramatic we are with our fucking grammar? One of the world's most popular podcasts has exasperated the scientists who authored the research. Like, relax, Guardian. Fucking relax. It also highlighted the tide of the climate misinformation that regularly emanates from some of the biggest podcasts in the US. Yo, they hate the fact that when you read articles like this, you realize just how much the establishment hates the fact that you guys have free speech in America. You know, free speech in the UK can never run. Over here, you can get locked up for tweets. So they hate the fact that there's people, they just say whatever the fuck they want on podcasts. How can they say what they want? You know, they fucking hate it. But on the other side of things, you guys also have chaos, right? So I don't know what's better. What do you think is better? Do you think it's better to have the world that we live in the UK, where defamation lawsuits are quite common and people can get arrested, you know, for fucking tweets and shit? You can get locked up for fucking tweets. Or is it better to live in the US where there's freedom of speech? You're not going to get locked up for tweets, but you have a lot of misinformation going around. You have a lot of like people with podcasts like me just becoming experts. Yeah, I'm an expert, and then just spouting nonsense. What's the best way? A police state? What's the best way? A police state or a free for all? What is the best way? Totalitarianism or what you guys have? What is the best way? I don't know. I don't know what the best way is. Maybe somewhere in the middle. Maybe half and half. Joe is speaking, the quote, Joe is speaking to his audience and they want it to be entertaining. I get it. But it concerns me because he isn't giving the right message, said Jessica Tierney, what's that? A paleoclimatologist, right? Paleoclimatologist at the University of Arizona and a co-author of the research frequently mentioned by Rogan. So the person who authored the research is telling Rogan, hey, you're reading my research wrong. User error. I've watched his clips and gone, oh geez, I can only laugh sometimes, but it's a bummer that these podcasts with large audiences are spewing this old school denial nonsense. It's not helpful. In the US, people are in silos now, and the climate scientists can't really reach people who aren't sure how climate changes or how climate change works. It's not a healthy situation. So that's true, isn't it? You guys are in silos. Like, you guys are in silos, whereas us, I don't know what we're in. Maybe we're in forced silos in a way, but the silos are manned by the government and the mainstream media. I don't know. Last year, Tierney was part of a group that published an ambitious paper in the Science Journal that reconstructed the timeline of the Earth's temperature over the past 485 million years. The research, which took 2 years to compile, was drawn from 150,000 data points, including fossil records and climate models. The study shows monumental shifts in the world's climate over the eons, including periods that are far hotter than now, such as when an asteroid crashed on the Earth and wiped out the dinosaurs around 66 million years ago, and another era about 250 million years ago when a mass extinction event killed off more than 90% of all species on the planet. The current period of rapid global heating caused by the burning of fossil fuels and the deforestation is in the last century, sorry, is shown on this vast timeline as comparatively small upward tick at the end of the graph, following a span of relatively planetary cooling that followed the demise of the dinosaurs. Rogan has seized upon this temperature graph, as shown in the Washington Post article, to claim the big swings in previous temperatures demonstrate concern over climate change are overblown. Of course he'd say that. There's a lot of horse shit that's involved with climate change. I've studied that. I've studied that, yo. This guy in studying and researching, he does kind of use those words a little bit too loosely, doesn't he, Rogan? I've studied, I've researched. Have you though? Have you? Have you though? I guess maybe reading is part of research, but you surely have to write in your own words. You have to cite different things. You have to get different sources, compare, control. I don't know. There's more to it than just like reading articles. The temperature on the Earth is plummeting. Look at the drop at the end. That's where we are. That's the reality. To agreement from Gibson, whose house burned down by fires in Los Angeles, the day the podcast was recorded. Mel Gibson, sorry. A data scientist says, no, let me read it again. To agreement from Mel Gibson, of course, whose house burned down by fires in Los Angeles on the day the podcast was recorded, a disaster, scientists say, was worsened by the global heating. Rogan added that the world's temperatures has always fluctuated. This idea that the whole thing is based on carbon emissions from humans is total bullshit is not true. I don't even know, you don't even have to be a scientist to know that isn't true. Why would you think that carbon emissions and the way we treat the Earth would have no impact on how the Earth, operates or whatever works? It's very strange, isn't it? Why would you think we would have no impact when there's so many of us and we're doing a lot of things to pollute the planet, pollute the atmosphere? Why wouldn't you think it'd have an adverse effect? It's such a strange conclusion to come to. I guess in some respects they think that probably because they're trying to fight against this climate, people that are for the climate, right? They don't want to have any of those things come into effect. They don't want to be taxed for certain things, people come into power. I get it, but it's like obviously humans are having some adverse effects on the planet. Doesn't mean we have to wipe ourselves out, but we can maybe correct course and change some of our behaviors to maybe make sure that we don't have an extinction level event again in the future. But what do I know? Since this conversation, Rogan has raised the topic of the temperature graph on 5 further episodes, including to his recent guest Bernie Sanders in June. Essentially, they found that we're in a cooling period, Rogan told the US Senator. This was like an inconvenient discovery, but they had to report the data, and kudos to them for doing that. Rogan's repeated references to the Washington Post article elides most of the actual article, which mentions, so this guy that says he reads articles doesn't read articles well. Can you believe that? The guy that says he reads articles, he swears by articles, he does the research, doesn't even read the articles correctly, doesn't even read the articles right, doesn't even read the articles in full. Rogan's repeated references to the Washington Post article elides most of the actual article, which mentions that the shift rate Earth is currently heating up and how this is being driven by the human-caused emissions. Scientists are unequivocal that the climate crisis is being caused entirely by the emission of greenhouse gases at a rate not seen during human history. But if Rogan says it's not true, it's not true. It's almost impressive how incorrect he's able to be. Yo,
you have a gun?
Big up NJ, big up NJ.
It became untenable to outright deny it, so the new front line of cope became the climate has always been changing. Boy Jordy P is a big proponent.
True. Jordan Peterson, yeah. Jordan Peterson, who's that one guy he likes? Borgenson, something Borgen, some guy he has on, right? Or does he argue that the world is cooling? I remember he had a couple episodes of that guy. He was always talking to him about it. Yeah, that's a good point. Big up NJ. I completely forgot about that. That's true. Jordan Peterson is not a fan of climate science but loves Israel. Who would have thought? It's also an incredible example of how the climate misinformation sneaks into the extremely popular media and then gets absorbed into the brains of millions of Americans. The world has heated up by 1.C centigrade, 2.1 Fahrenheit since the Industrial Revolution. But, crucial aspects of the change is its pace. Tierney pointed out, while the mass extinction event at the Permian period, ominously called the Great Dying, saw Earth's temperatures jump about 10 C, which unfolded over a span of 50,000 years. The current surge in temperature has occurred in a little more than a century after humans enjoyed thousands of years of predictable climate patterns to grow crops and settle near previously stable coastlines. The graph's latest small upward line in the context of hundreds of million years presents a remarkable leap in the global heat. The temperature's reconstruction is over a million years. It's not a human timescale, said Tierney. It's all about the speed, and we've never seen carbon dioxide and temperatures rise as fast as now. Even in extinction events, it's always been slower. We evolved in cooler climates, and now we are rapidly warming up and putting life on this planet in danger. It's scary. I don't know, man. Me personally, I'm gonna listen to the scientist. If the scientists are saying it's scary, I'm gonna just take their word for it, and I'm gonna try and do better. I can't change the world, but I'm gonna try to do my bit. What I'm not gonna do is think, if I read a couple of articles that I find on fucking Google, that suddenly I know more than what these guys are doing, because I'm not about to do the work for it. If they've come to this conclusion after all their studies, I'm gonna just assume they know what they're talking about. I'm not gonna go out of my way to try and find information to disprove them, just so I can get a dunk or think it's not that deep. It really isn't. Like, honestly, this, like, I understand questioning things, because I question things, right? That's the point of being like an intelligent, curious person. But it's this idea that you know more. Yo, big up, Crash.
Incredible stream yesterday, brother. I watched it this morning. I can't catch the live much anymore, but I'm glad to see you're still going hard and doing your thing. We wouldn't be alive without you, AZ. Hand over mouth emoji. Big ups.
Don't say that. That's not true. Don't say that. That's not true. You're gassing me. That's complete bullshit. No, you would still be alive. We wouldn't be alive without you. Get fucked, Crash. But big up, Crash. I wouldn't be alive without you. It's a by the way, I think Crash is making reference to my hatred of people who, like, you know, glaze people that make content and shit or whatever, just people in general, and be like, I wouldn't be alive without. It's like, brother, what? You wouldn't be alive without Soldier Boy, for real. Soldier Boy saved your life, really? Are you for real? Soldier Boy saved your life. Like, you know, people like exaggerating, try to make a bit more out of it. But yeah, big up Crash, man. Crash, you're a fucking legend. Appreciate the super chat. I appreciate the fucking super chat. And don't worry about not being here. The best thing about content is that it lives online. It lives online. So if you miss it, you can rewatch it. And now I'm getting really fast with the timestamps and shit, so you can always skip around and double check those things. But big up everybody that was here yesterday for the 7-hour plus stream. We nearly made it to 8. I didn't make it all the way through, but big up everybody that was there. Enjoyed it, had a good one. Let's continue. Rogan is not the only high profile podcaster or online streamer to distort climate science, with 8 out of the 10 most popular online shows in the US involved in spreading false or misleading climate information, according to the Yale Climate Connection. These top-rated shows are dominated by right-wing figures such as Jordan Peterson, Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, and often skew towards a young male demographic. I wonder why there's not more like left-leaning people who do this. I wonder why that's the case. Why aren't there left-leaning people spreading misinformation when it comes to the climate, to kind of counterbalance, or to just offer two different perspectives? You know, that might be the right way to go about things. So you have like the experts giving their opinion, you have the content creators or the podcasters and shit on the right giving their opinion, and you have the content creators and podcasters on the left giving their opinion. Then it's up to you, the American public, to make a decision of who you believe, who you're gonna go with. You know, that should be the way it goes. But for some reason, the right or the Republicans or whatever, they seem to be the only people who question common held beliefs, who question the widely held narratives, who question institutions, who question, you know, who questions experts and shit. I wonder why. The audiences can be vast too, says Rogan, who's deal with Spotify. Who goes, shut up. This is about 10 times more than primetime viewership of Fox. Channel. Ordinary folks don't learn about climate change by reading science journals, said Edward Maybach. They learn about it primarily by listening to what other people have to say, which includes social media influencers and podcasters. When those influencers don't know what they're talking about, everyone suffers. Yeah, I don't know. We're living in a world now, right, where it seems like it's too much to demand for people to know what they're talking about. Could you believe that? We're living in a world where it seems like you are asking too much of people when you say they should maybe know what they're talking about. You're asking too much. You're demanding way too much to maybe do some more research, be more responsible with your platform, you know, dot your I's, cross your T's. No. Just fire from the hip. Fire from the hip. Don't get me wrong. For a viewer, it's way more fun to see somebody just going unhinged rants and stuff and just shouting, spouting nonsense. But if you actually are starving for information and you don't like watching the news, like a lot of people don't like watching mainstream news, and you get your news from like places like YouTube and other places and shit, it's probably, you know, you probably, you know, it wouldn't be remiss if the person that you watch decided to, you know, do some research, double check some things here and there. It continues. More than a third of the US adults aged under 30 and 1 in 5 adults overall say that they regularly get their news from social media influencers. Wow, bro. Polling last year found 1 in 5. More than a third. Shit. So more than a third of people get their news from like accounts that have like bold text on white backgrounds, right? That's insane, isn't it? Like most people's news or sources of news is coming from like Instagram feeds, TikTok feeds, not from actual news websites. It's actually wow. I might be the only person in the world, or one of the few people in the world, that types in bbc.co.uk news, Guardian news, Times news, you know, the Independent. I mean, I might be the only person that actually types in the site to check what's going on the front page. Everyone else is like, whatever comes up on the Instagram, that's their news. Shit. I would hope that people like Rogan are self-aware enough. This article doesn't know who Rogan is. One would hope people like Rogan are self-aware enough. Yeah, right. That they would know, and that they would know what they know and what they don't know. Lols, you've not met Rogan before. And to realize that helping to propagate misinformation and disinformation about our climate is extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous. Yeah, but they don't care. And I don't know, I'm still in two minds, man. I'm still in two minds. I kind of agree that it's not like, if I'm just sitting around, like if I'm sitting here just having fun, right, talking to you guys, hanging out, is it fair to put me on to require me to have like journalistic standards when I'm just a guy talking out my ass? You know, why should I be required to like try to be a journalist when I'm not? You know, it doesn't make any sense. So I'm not really sure I buy this whole idea about, oh, you're spreading me. It's like, yeah, but it's a podcast, isn't it? It's like a street. Like, what do you expect? It's actually up to the people watching to be a bit more discerning and not to listen to certain people. You know, if someone's talking rubbish, turn it off, go somewhere else. I don't know, sleep. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong with that one. The producer of the Joe Rogan Experience did not respond to a request of comment about Rogan's mistaken fixation with temperature graph. Tierney, the study's all co-author, said she would be willing to appear on the show. Oh, I would love that too. But he's not going to do that. Joe likes his echo chamber. Joe is a big fan of echo chambers, that's for sure. Joe Rogan is a big fan of blood clot echo chambers. So big up Rogan. Big up Rogan. Last bit here says it's dumb the way that he's interpreting the graph, and if he wants to talk about it, he should invite me onto the show instead of talking about it to Mel Gibson or Bernie. He wants to talk about it to Mel Gibson and Bernie Sanders. That's it. I think it's safe to say Mel Gibson doesn't know a lot about the paleo climate. Really, it's safe to say Mel Gibson doesn't know a lot about the paleo climate. You can't say that to Rogan though. If you tell him he's not an expert, he doesn't know stuff, he's gonna flip. He's gonna tell you, don't say that to me or I'm gonna mock you. And it's so easy to mock you than to mock me. Rogan's gonna get really angry. So don't do that. You can't tell Rogan he doesn't know things. Rogan doesn't like it when you tell him he doesn't know things. Rogan doesn't like it when you tell him he doesn't know things.